Hi, I'm Christina Cottom, Research Specialist for the Rothwell Center for Teaching and Learning Excellence. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video on the November 2017 webinar on providing effective APA feedback efficiently. So let's get started. So in this webinar, we talked about Embry-Riddle and APA and why it's important for us to all be on the same page in regards to APA. We're going to talk about some tips and tricks to help you give feedback more efficiently and effectively for your students in APA, and then some resources that are available at the university that can help you be more efficient with your APA feedback. So here's my little meme that says, did you really just ask if you have to use APA? I teach English, and I know that I have students ask me that question all the time. Why do we have to use APA? I don't understand APA. So it's important for us as a university, as a campus, to ensure that we show our students that we have a united front when it comes to this topic. So the involvement of the entire institution, departments, and programs shows that we value writing and that we want to ensure that all of our students are becoming proficient writers and proficient in APA formatting. So it's also important that we have to keep in mind when we're teaching our students and giving them feedback on their writing and on APA that writing is a skill, right? It's never fully developed, it's never fully learned. We can always be better. So getting together, working with your colleagues, with your fellow instructors and teachers to make sure that we're all sending the same message about the importance of writing format is so crucial. Students get really frustrated and often complain when there's inconsistency between instructors regarding APA. So an example that I have of that, what we hear from a lot from student affairs, is that some of the grievances that they get from students are in regards to APA. So imagine being, a graduate student and you've been writing papers all along in all these classes and being told that you're excellent, you're getting A's, and no one's really docking your points on APA. And then you get to your capstone and your research advisor or your capstone advisor, really comes down hard on you about your writing and your writing formatting. And maybe you fail your capstone. We have the data that shows that when students fail their capstones, they don't come back and complete their degree. So it's really important that we are consistent and that we're all sending the exact same message. Additionally, as a united front, what we can do is share resources, share what we're doing, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about later in this webinar, but it's important for us to work together, think of creative ways together as a department, as a program, as a campus, as an institution, to find ways that we can address the specific writing needs of our students. Another thing that we can do at ERAU as instructors is ensure that we are modeling best writing practices for our students. So students learn by example and repetition. So it's critical that we as instructors hold ourselves accountable in APA to have positive reinforcement for our students. So, when you think about it, students see a lot of writing on a daily basis that is not an APA format. So think of newspapers and magazines and pretty much everything on the internet. So what we can do is make sure that our handouts, our emails, our presentations are in APA formatting to provide examples of scholarly writing and show that we place value on APA. It's not just this thing that we grade them on and give them feedback on because we have to or because it's a part of the rubric. We place value on it and we want to model how it should look. So we do this a lot already in most of our classes at Worldwide, but making sure that we incorporate writing formatting and writing style into our grading rubrics. So like I said, we do that a lot, but it's also key to remember that the APA is only part of the assignment that we're grading, right? It's only part of the rubric. So we need to make sure that we are also looking at the content, because if I'm a student and I'm going to an engineering instructor and I'm in an engineering class and that engineering professor only gives me feedback on my writing and my APA and really comes down hard on that and doesn't give me a lot of feedback in regards to the content, Where am I going to learn that content, that knowledge that I'm only going to get from that subject matter expert? So it's important we have a balance. We show the students, yes, we value APA, we value academic writing, but we also value that you understand the content and you're grasping what we're trying to teach. So another thing that you could do is, maybe create some sort of standard letter in your department or in your program that can be sent to students to empower them to seek writing assistance or ask for support while acknowledging that APA is difficult. So I understand that APA is challenging. Here are some things that you can do to help you with this topic or with this issue because APA is challenging. I work in APA all the time, and there are still things that I have to look up and that I don't know. So one of the things that we can do is to give our students some resources, right? And give them things that can minimize the stress of APA for them and for us. So we all know that meaningful feedback is important and it's powerful, particularly in writing. But our goal is to teach them as writers and not just refine or fix one specific piece of writing. So we don't want them to just make those improvements on that paper and then make the exact same mistakes the next time they write a paper. So this takes time to develop writers, right? To develop our students as writers. So we can encourage our students to use the APA template that is available in Word. There is also an APA template in our CTLE discussion for the November month. It's actually pinned now at the top in the CTLE resource site. It's just called APA Resources. One of the faculty members shared an APA template that he provides to all of his students. So if you can use, the APA template in 2016 in Word, or this template that was provided by a faculty member from the resource site, that's going to help eliminate a lot of the problems that we see with APA for our students. Most of the time, the things that we see are errors in just formatting, double spacing or margins, not having the title page done correctly or the running head done correctly. So if we can provide them a template, that will help eliminate a lot of the APA errors that we see. So another thing that we can do as instructors is create an APA feedback bank. So I have created an APA feedback bank for you, and it is in the CTLE resource site. At ERAU, we encourage faculty to use the Doc Viewer, which is in SpeedGrader. It used to be called CrocDoc, or Word Track Changes when you're providing feedback. So Doc Viewer is a great tool, and I use it in my English classes to provide feedback for my students. However, what I found is when you provide a lot of content feedback and APA feedback on my students' papers, there's a lot of comment boxes and it can get really confusing and my feedback can get lost. So what I think can be done to combat this issue and what I'm going to be doing moving forward is giving my content feedback in Doc Viewer in Canvas, because that's very important. I want to make sure my students get my content feedback. And I also want to make sure that they get the APA feedback. I want to make sure this feedback doesn't get lost. And then I'm going to be using Word to give feedback on specifically my APA. So what you can do in Word is develop shortcuts, and I'm going to have the link for this. They're called building blocks in Word, and it's very easy to go in there, use the feedback bank that I've created, take those comments, that feedback on a particular issue. So say you have a student that is missing a running head. So instead of typing every time you need a running head or you need an abstract, you can just use a building block, create like a quick step, it's what it's called, and then just double click on that and it'll pop in your feedback and that comment wherever you have the comment box when you're doing the track changes. So that's what I'm going to be doing moving forward, and I have a link on how to create those content building blocks in Word at the end of the APA feedback bank that's here in the CTLE resource site. So I encourage you to try that method and see if your students can get all your feedback, because again, I think it gets lost in the Doc Viewer when we give them content feedback and APA feedback in the same place. Also, using Word and using the APA feedback bank will make it a lot easier for you to give students feedback on APA. And you'll see in the feedback bank that I created and have provided that it has references to the manual. So we need to make sure that we're teaching our students how to use the manual, what the manual is, the actual APA manual, not the style guide, not the smaller book, the big manual. Because, again, they're not going to know every single thing in APA, and they need to know how to look it up. All right, so moving forward, a couple other things that we can do to help make APA a little bit easier when giving APA feedback to our students is encourage your students to do peer reviews specifically looking at APA style. So maybe set up, if you're doing an EV class, maybe you can have them do a breakout, and you can give them a paper and have them talk about it and talk about the APA errors or what was done right in APA. Or set up a peer review in a discussion, or have them do it in groups in Canvas. There's a lot of different ways that we can have them do this, but peer review is used a lot in writing because that, along with the faculty instruction and support, leads to an increase in student writing success. You can also provide strong examples for your students. So examples from their peers can make writing seem more approachable and can increase student confidence in writing. So say you have a student that writes an exceptional paper, and all of their APA was done beautifully. You just ask that student if can I please share this work with the class or future classes? You can remove their name, any identifying information, and you can use this paper as an example. You could also do some track changers in Word and point out strong components of the paper. So look right here where the student used really good critical thinking, or look here where they had really great literature support, or look here where the APA was done well. So giving students examples of strong work in APA can help them realize that they too can also be successful in this, that it's not impossible to get APA down and do it well. Okay, lastly, to just kind of wrap it up, we'll talk about some of the resources that are available at Embry-Riddle, and specifically at Worldwide. So we have in Eaglet, which Eaglet is the communication lab that's usually in most of the ERAU courses already. If not, students can find it very easily on Ernie. So there was an APA training that we created in CTLE. We have two. We have one that is for faculty, which you can access in Ernie from our CTLE site in Ernie. And there's also one for students, which is embedded in Eaglet. And this is just a self-paced APA tutorial that covers 5 of the areas where students typically struggle with APA. So it looks at formatting, it looks at title page, it looks at references, it looks at in-text citations, it talks about quotes and paraphrasing, because that tends to be a struggle with a lot of our students. So you can always refer your students to this tool and say, hey, I've noticed that you've been missing putting the journal name in italics when you're doing your reference page. Please refer to this APA tutorial and look at the reference section for a refresher. The students don't have to go through the whole thing. They can actually pick and choose what they need to cover, or what they need to relearn or get a refresher on. And we also have one for faculty as well, if there's faculty that aren't as familiar with APA. And then, of course, there's also lots of websites that can help students. There's Purdue OWL, there's EasyBib, there's Citation Machine. But if you're going to refer a student to a website, APA Style is probably going to be the best, because it's based, of course, off of the APA manual. They also have a tutorial. They also have a frequently asked questions page. And when I've had questions about certain citations or things in APA, I've gone to this site and looked up and seen what other people have asked and what the answers are. So I really recommend sending your students to APA. There's also different things that students can purchase if they're really struggling, like Perla, which embeds into Word and automatically formats all the papers, kind of like a template. So there's that option if you have students that are struggling. Of course, the APA manual, which is, the APA Bible, it can be overwhelming. It's a very big book. It has a lot of information in it. But it's important that we encourage our students to learn how to utilize this resource to assist them with their writing. And if you look at my APA manual, it is highlighted, it is tagged, I have sticky notes all over the place. No one else could probably look at that manual except for me. But it's important that we show students the value of that manual and how it can help them with their APA and their writing in general. The Hunt Library also has great resources for APA, so I would encourage you to check out that. And then, of course, each other, your colleagues, right? Other instructors are a wonderful resource to find out what they're already doing to assist their students with APA formatting. So I encourage you to visit the CTLE resource site and go to the APA discussion and see what resources have already been shared. And also, I encourage you to share the resources that you may have for APA. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch the November webinar. Again, I'm Christina Cottom, the research specialist. If you have any questions about APA and supporting your students with APA writing or research in general, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help. Thank you so much and have a great day.